We're back, and it's Tuesday for whatever that means. Hi, Stellar. And here we are. Maybe I can move this a little bit closer. And okay, when I turn the paper sideways, it takes up less space on the vertical on my screen, and I feel like the camera's too far away, but actually, it's the same. So anyhow, here we are. I'm going to throw a little bit of charcoal all over the place. Just throw it all over the place. There were people in my group who would take a charcoal pencil and a razor blade and shape, make a little charcoal powder and lay their paper flat and sprinkle charcoal powder all over and rub it in to get essentially this effect. Um, I find it easier and to have more character to go over it with chalk. You can also buy charcoal powder in the art supply store if you do like that effect. You get big jars of it. And I have been saving every little chunk of old charcoal in a container over there, and I guess someday I'll take a mortar and pestle and mash it all up and have my own charcoal powder. Anyhow, here we are. We did this on Zoom the other night, Saturday night, and I think I drew it right, but this stuff looks wrong. Now, of course, her arm is blocking how her chest is working, essentially. But so it's hard for me to tell. I'm going to try to fit an oval into that space to represent the rib cage. So there it is. That means the bottom of the rib cage there should be sticking out about right here, where you won't see it because it's behind her arm. What I'm having trouble with is I can actually see that pectoral muscle. I can see the arm, and I can see the pectoral muscle in her boob. All of that makes me suspect that this whole assembly right here needs to be over to the right, about a quarter to 3/8 of an inch. I think is completely wrong, and well, we just can't have that, even though I've drawn it on there pretty good and solid. Go ahead and have the new arm meet the wrist here. And do that. So start with this business, this boob business. And I'll move that arm over. So that looks mildly correct. Gotta erase that. Gotta erase that. Now her neck's coming straight up from her shoulder. That is not correct. So all I have to do is erase the whole damn thing. Do it over. No big deal. All right. So move her neck over, which moves her head over, which moves her shoulder over. I actually don't think this part is wrong, or if it is, it's not terrible. So I may leave most of that. Now, move it just a tad, half a tad. having done all that, I'm free to maybe do something else with this arm. I didn't really like the way that arm, her upper arm went straight up, but was completely hidden by her lower arm, which live and in person obviously looks correct because it is. And in a photograph, it looks correct because it is. But sometimes in a drawing, what it looks like is she's got somebody's arm standing on her shoulder on the by its fingertips, and just sticking up in the air, and like that's not her arm at all. And so I don't like that look. You wind up with that a lot when models do cutesy things, like they put their hand on top of their head like this, and if you happen to be on that side of the room, it looks like they've just got a hand that they're wearing for a hat on top of their head, and it just doesn't look right. It's causing me all kinds of trouble, so I'm going to start solving my problem by giving her lots of hair, and that covers a whole bunch of stuff. And then I'm going to put her hand sticking out there. Now, had I realized I was going to do that today, I would perhaps have found a reference photo so I could draw that correctly. But I just made that decision like right now. And so I'm not prepared. I got nothing. And that definitely would push her shoulder back this direction some. So that was the right choice to move that a little bit. Whether the rest of this is the right choice or not remains to be seen. So get chalk for that. It's that easy. So I don't know what's going on. If you ask me what is the narrative here, what's happening in this picture, I do not know. But I do know that I like it better than the original, so I'm rolling with it one way or the other. And yeah, so there she is, laying on the floor pointing at something. Like, hey, somebody gonna do something about the dragon flying in right there? Somebody should ought to do something about that. Once again, I forgot to plug myself in, so if I turn out to, not be here, let me know. Just a couple minutes ago, I was out front cleaning my bird feeder. Isn't that exciting? It do get dirty after a while. It gets dirty after a very short while, and then a year later, I decide I really do need to clean that. Is what happens. So I took it all apart, and it's kind of big, and I didn't have anything out there that I could soak the thing in, and just hosing it off didn't do it. So I said, I know, I'll soak it in the bathtub. And my sense of smell is not all that good. Sometimes I do things that create a noxious odor in the house, and I don't realize it. My wife's over there gagging. Sorry. Got it clean though. Bought a bird feeder a couple of years ago, kind of on a whim. I wasn't really into birds. What I was I had a tree for once, and it had grown, big enough to hang something off the branches if you felt like it. I thought, well, let's hang a bird feeder up there and see what happens. Never had that before. So we hung one out there. Nobody came to it for like 2 weeks. Thought it was a bird repellent feeder. And then finally some critters started showing up. And we started saying things like, well, that one's brown and that one's kind of red. I wonder if they're the same bird or if they're different. And so we looked it up, and so it began. We have now identified 22 separate species of bird that have landed in the yard because of our bird feeder. The most recent one, from a couple days ago, did in fact come to the bird feeder. But he wasn't there for the seed. He was there for the birds. It was a small hawk of some kind. And I don't know what he caught. He hit it fast. I barely got a glimpse at it, and it flew away. But he took something with him. I'm down one furry friend, feathered friend. We find feathers in the yard every now and then. We always blame the cat, and I'm sure that the cat is at least sometimes responsible. I've seen the cat do that, but apparently he's not always responsible. It hadn't occurred to me that it might be a hawk. Or I suppose an owl if we find it in the morning. But Sissy says, I'm late. What did I miss? Nothing. I'm rambling on about cleaning bird poop. So you missed nothing at all. And you're editing photos, so you have to listen. Oh boy, there's a lot on me today now. I've got to say something entertaining. I don't know what. I don't know if I can handle that. So yeah, we're turning into bird nerds. Get excited every time we see a bird we haven't seen before, or something we rarely see. We were never really even hardly conscious of birds before. I mean, they were around, but they were never in our yard. You know, we have cats, and we didn't have trees, and so we just never saw a bird, except out of the corner of your eye. But now we got them. The picture I posted this morning is the original is over here in this shelf behind me somewhere. And I tried just before the video started. I tried to find that so I could act on one of the recommendations. Somebody said she's kind of off balance, like she's going to tip over, and somebody said, well, she could have a goblin holding her hand and pulling her off balance. And I like that idea. I can see that in my mind, and I want to do that if I find the thing again. But we actually drew that one. I don't remember. Maybe it was on live video, or maybe it was just something else that I did. But it's been a while back, and it's just not as exciting as some of the other ones that I've been posting. So yeah, it's just a figure drawing, not doing anything, not dressed up. So far, I don't have a before and after for it. So I got a few of those that you're gonna have to put up with for a couple days while I catch up. So this is cool. I definitely feel like there's now something going on back here. I have not decided what. But she's pointing at something. She's got to be pointing at something. It's reminding me of a book cover, and I'm not sure which one. It was something Caven's World, Gavin's World, Wayne's World. Something. Um, Sissy said, "I love the idea of the goblin pulling on her hand." Yeah, I do too. I think that is gonna work. Um, yeah, there's a Frazetta painting, and there's a barbarian standing there, and there's a girl on the ground pointing up in the air, and there's some dragons up in the air. I don't have the physical space to put a barbarian standing next to her. I could put, you know, his leg. Uh, that's about it. And huh, huh. I don't know. We'll think of something. Think of something later. Decorations now, plot later. So, what would I possibly put on her forecast? I've got a thong. I've never done that before. Sissy says also an internet update. Should anyone care, the new Cox internet is doing well, uploading giant photo files while also watching your video and Kaylee watching Netflix. So yay, that is good. We have come a long, long way. I remember downloading a photo from news groups where there were descriptions of photos, like naked girl running on the beach, and then there was 10 photos. And so but it was just a file name. And then you'd click on it and go make a sandwich or something, and 10, 15 minutes later, you had a picture, and you'd go, nah, I don't like that. And then you delete it and click on another one and see if that one was any better. Oh, and if somebody called you on the phone, it disrupted the whole thing. your internet was off, and the download stopped, and it didn't resume when your phone call was over. You had to go get online again and see if you could find where you were. So I'm told that people download pictures of naked women on the internet. It's a thing I've heard. In those days, we had a 28.8 modem. It had its own phone number. You had to have a separate phone line. But it still came in the same wire as the other one. I may be getting this wrong, but anyway, if somebody calls you, it interrupted. The first iteration we had, maybe by the time it had its own phone number, it didn't get interrupted. I don't recall. There was a stage like that. We had a friend who used to live here, and she moved to Chicago, and she had a cell phone. We didn't, but we were online. We had a computer, and she had left to go to go to some event, some meeting that she had, and it was a long drive, and realized she had forgotten her map. Okay, this was in the days when you could go to MapQuest and print a map of where you needed to be and carry it with you on a piece of paper. So she had done that and then left the map sitting on the kitchen table. So here she is, a long ways from home, long ways from where she needs to be, thinking to herself, who do I know that's not going to be at work right now? And then she thought of me. She's like, well, Gil is working, but he's at home. I could call Gil. And so she called me in Gilbert, Arizona, gave me the name of the place she was looking for in Chicago. I went online, looked up the place she was looking for, and got it up on my screen and read her directions while she was driving in Chicago. And I got her there. It was a little transition period where the technology was extremely high tech. I mean, it was really kind of amazing that we could do that at all. But now you look back and you go, oh my God, that's ridiculous. That's, you know, you've got your Google Maps on your smartphone, but there weren't no smartphones. It's stupid phones. I didn't even have a cell phone. She had one. Because she was high tech. I would be out somewhere, and this would be a couple years later, I guess. I would be out someplace and I'd painting a sign or something. Got a message saying, you know, hey, come by this place to get a job for you. Something, you know, I'd be out there in the middle of wherever, out in Buckeye or something, other side of town from here. And I would need to go someplace, but I didn't know where it was. And if I couldn't find it with a phone book, I had to drive all the way home, look it up on my computer, MapQuest it, and print a map, and then drive possibly all the way back to a half a mile from where I just was, to go to the place, because I didn't know where it was. I had a lady call me one day, and she said something like, you know, this is Lucy from the flower shop. And I said, okay. I had never known a Lucy from a flower shop. I said, okay, what can I do for you, Lucy? So she says, how much is a sign? I said, well, they're $5 a square foot, so it all depends on how big the sign is. What's a square foot? I said, look down at the floor. Are you standing on tile? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, that's probably a square foot. And so that gives you a visual of how big a square foot is. She said, I don't want you to paint the floor. I want you to paint the windows. I said, I was just trying to give you an idea how big a square foot is. Well, how much is a sign? So I just realized I'm not going to be able to get an estimate over the phone because she just doesn't understand the concept. So I I said, so where's your shop? It's the flower shop. Which one? What's it called? I'm right down the street from Domino's. I said, there's a lot of Domino's in the valley. Which one? She said, you painted the window on the Domino's. I'm right down the street from them. I said, oh, that narrows it down to like 40 locations. Can you be more specific? And she says, well, I'm right across the street from a Circle K. And I was like, don't you know the name of the store? It's like, yeah, it's my store. Well, what do you call it? I'm right down the street from Domino's. And so I said, okay, well, what cross streets are you at? She didn't understand the question. I said, what city are you in? Didn't understand the question. I said, are you on the north side of the road or the south side of the road? She goes, why does it matter? Whatever you like. Like I could choose which side of the street she was on. So I said, okay. And I had a list. I had a little book that had the names and addresses of all the clients I've done work for. And so I had a list of all the Domino's. And I opened up my computer and I looked, I mapped and did the Google Street View of every Domino's that I had done work for, which was about 40 locations. Oh, and I got in the phone book and I looked up every flower shop in the Phoenix metropolitan area because she didn't know what city she was in. And so I found ones like, okay, here's a flower shop on Indian School Road, and there's a Domino's that I worked at on Indian School Road, and so I triangulated, and I Googled, and did the street view, and so I could look around, I could go, okay, there's Domino's, there's a flower shop, and I look on the other side of the street for the Circle K, and there's a 7-Eleven, and I found a few places that were really roughly, but that one was like the closest description to what she said. And I drove out there, and there it was, Linda's flower shop, like, which is in the phone book. If she would only just tell me the name of the place and like what city she's in. But no, she didn't know her address. She didn't know. Kurt says, "Yeah, it's like next door to the Starbucks." Like that narrows it down at all. Like everything's next door to a Starbucks. I saw a Starbucks across the street from a Starbucks. So, yeah, I got there and did her sign. You gotta do what you gotta do. I have no clue how a person could possibly not know. It was her store. She owned the store. And she didn't appear to know what the name of the store was or what the address of the store was or what city she was in or what street she was on or which direction was north. Those questions make no sense to her. I understand that there are people in the world who just cannot get what is north, south, east, and west because they're like, well, it changes if you turn your body, right? If that's north that way, and then I turn around, well, now it's north that way, right? And then, like, no, north doesn't mean just in front of you; it means north. But there's people who wrestle with that, they have a bad time with that, and I don't know. I guess it's a thing. It's a thing for some. But I still don't see how you could not know what street your business is on. I mean, you've got to be doing things like writing invoices and yeah, I have no idea, no idea. But she was not. It was not the only time something like that happened. There were a couple others that I simply had to give up because I couldn't. I could never make any sense out of whatever directions they gave me. Um, there was guys who would say 40th. Well, we have avenues and streets. Counting from Central, they go opposite directions. It makes a big difference where 40th is. And and then the guy acted like I was just making excuses. It's like it's on 40th, just go there. So I went 40th Avenue, was not there. Went to 40th Street, it still wasn't there. And I called him and said, "Where is your business?" And he said, "It's on 40th." And I continued to look, and he got angry, and I said, "Okay, I'm going home now." I don't know what his deal was. The address he gave me was not correct or something. So I couldn't do it. And that's not the most outrageous thing that ever happened. Somebody wanted me to paint a mural once, a mural in their house. So I said, "Yeah, I can do that." And they got a quote. How much is it? Well, it's $10 a square foot for a mural. So, they were estimating the size, that they wanted and everything, and they agreed that was a good, going to be a couple $100, and they were like, "That's great. That's a great deal." So I get there to the house, and they said, I gotta have a finger in the camera. They said, "We want the wall right there." They wanted me to build the wall and run electricity, and then paint it, and then paint a mural on it for the price that I quoted to paint the mural. And it's not that I'm not capable of doing that. It's just that I have no desire to do that. And the materials were going to cost more than what I quoted for painting the mural. So there was no way I could do that. And they were scandalized. "You said, we've been waiting for you." And I said, "Bye-bye." And that's not the most outrageous thing that's ever happened. One place I did do a mural. It was weird. People react to you in all kinds of different ways. One place I went to, the guy did not trust me, and he stood like 3 feet behind my back with his arms crossed, scowling at me. Like the whole time I was there, and I was there for a week. And it was a big mural. But he would follow me to the bathroom, and he would stand outside the bathroom, and if I was taking too long, he was asking me what was taking. and it was super uncomfortable job to work at. And then by contrast, like a week later, I met some person on the street. I was painting a sign on the window at Trader Joe's, I think. And woman with a couple teenage daughters walks up to me and says, she says, "Can you paint murals?" And I said, sure. And she reaches into her purse and hands me a key to the house, and tells me where it is, and what she wants done and everything. And it's just like, I mean, I went and painted this mural at this house. I talked to this person for like 30 seconds, but I mean, well, longer than that, but it was 30 seconds before I had a key in my hand. And then I was just in there by myself. They don't know me. Um, Now I thought that was strange. And then this one place I was painting, and they said, "Well, we'll be back at 4 o'clock." They left. They left me there. And they said, "We'll be back at 4 o'clock." And they said, "Don't. We need you not to leave because you don't have a key." And the front door had a big uh, bolt lock on it that had to be turned from the outside, and so there was no way to lock the door unless you had a key. And wall around the property, and a couple of big, very, very dangerous dogs in the backyard. They told me don't go out there, because the dogs will eat you. And well, there was someplace I had to be at 4 o'clock, or that evening, anyways. 4 o'clock comes, and they didn't come home. And they had given me a phone number to contact them in case I needed to contact them. So I called the phone number, and it rang the phone in the kitchen, which did me no good at all. And so I I waited until like 6. They still weren't home. They hadn't called and told me, you know, what was going on or anything. And I was like, I've got to go. So I found some dog treats in the pantry. I opened a window out the side of the building, and I took my stepladder out through, and and the dogs came and were biting the stepladder, and they left marks. And so I threw a treat for the dog. The dogs ran off to get the treat, and then they come running back. And so it took me a few experimental tries to see if what I could manage, but uh, I was able to take all my stuff out to my car and pack it away. So the stepladder was all I still had. Locked the front door behind me, came through, put the stepladder down into the yard, threw the dog treats, slid down the stepladder, slammed the window shut, ran across the yard with the stepladder, set it down in front of the wall, went up and over the wall with dogs chewing on my ankle and chewing on the stepladder, and swung my legs over the wall and yanked the stepladder up and over, and went down the other side. And I did have to come back later to finish the job. It was a large enough job that it took a couple of days. And I told them what had happened. I was like, you guys left me here, and it was 6 o'clock, and I had to be somewhere. Your dogs tried to bite my leg off. And they were kind of like, they didn't have an apology or an explanation or a better suggestion, or here, since I'm asking you to hazard your life, how about if you borrow my key or anything like that. So anyhow, the next time when they wanted to leave, I said, okay, I'm going to go home. It took a couple days to finish that job, but yeah, I got out of that alive. But the dogs have me figured out by now. They know what I'm going to pull. Okay, she's all dressed up. And look at me. I've been talking for 47 minutes. And it's all Sissy's fault. It's Sissy's fault because she's not paying attention and looking at the camera. And hi, Sharon. Customer service horror stories. Yes, those are my horror stories. And that's probably not the most outrageous thing that ever happened, but that's what I got for now. And I'll see you tomorrow. Wednesday-ish? Tomorrow's Wednesday-ish. And I'll see you then. Thanks. Bye-bye.